CEO of Pedigo.
What is the best business advice you've ever gotten and or given?
Well, there's a lot of things, but I would say the best advice that I've gotten and I give out almost on a daily basis is, as an entrepreneur, there are no failures. There are only learning experiences. I'm not so sure where I picked that up, but anytime someone said, I failed or this didn't work, I said, it's a learning experience. And I was with a potential dealer today that's opening up some stores in Houston. He said he worked at Amazon. He says, for 4 years at Amazon, they taught me to fail quickly. Okay, and I think that's a good story. You know, you have to try different things. And the world's a different place than it was just a few years ago. And failure should be accepted as a step to success, because as any entrepreneur will tell you, not everything they do is successful.
Absolutely. I've had a few serial entrepreneurs on the shows the last few weeks, and the gentleman last week had 10 companies, 3 were successful and 10 failed. And myself, I mean, I've had a couple, been fortunate to have a few successful ones, but I call them dead bodies along the road, or a lot of road litter, because I've had a few of those. But to your point, that's how we learn and be able to take that and not have fear and have focus and always take one step forward.
Now up is JJ Risha, CEO of Business Vision Advisory, also a serial entrepreneur who's got some great advice that I think you'll enjoy.
I think received and keep giving.
Okay, all right. That was the second part of this. But okay. One and the same. One and the same.
So one and the same, and that is focus. So you know, early in my career, when I first started my first company, it was like, what do I do? I'm concentrating on many different things at the same time. But at the end of the day, it's really about focus. The more niche, the better, actually. Instead of the less niche, the better. So I would say focus. And during my career as an advisor, I've given this same to others, saying that you have to focus on exactly what you do. You could have 20 different things, but you need to focus on potentially maybe the low-hanging fruit as the first thing, and then you can expand from there after figuring out exactly how to get, you know, revenue from that specific side of the business.
All right. So not trying to be all things to all people, to start really look at, you know, what is your best opportunity to get the business going.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense, because so many times as entrepreneurs, we have these great ideas. We talked about this in the hallway. We tend to fall in love with them. I've fallen in love with a few of mine that, you know, even though I put the lipstick on them, they were still pigs. And, you know, they just didn't go anywhere. And so I think that's a great advice, that focusing on what is really important and where are your opportunities for success, and the other things will come.
Yeah, very true. And I can tell you, I spent a lot of time not only with mature companies, helping them with their operations, but I spent a lot of time with startup companies as well. And especially on the startup side, they just want to be the solution for everything. And you can't be. You have to focus, and you have to really really laser focus on exactly where is the pain in the market, and who could really use your solution in order to solve their pain.
Right. And I think that is absolutely the key, is understanding how your solution solves a pain for their clients, and understanding it's not necessarily the specific client you're selling the product to, but how do they utilize it for helping their client grow, right?
Very true.
Yeah, as opposed to, hey, my product's great and wonderful, and I'm beating my chest here if you're not watching the video. And we forget that ultimately it's not about what we do, it's about how we help our customers.
If you listen to the show with John Elves, the CEO of Dirtbag Clothing, some great insights, some great advice that I think you'll find wonderful.
What is the best business advice you've ever gotten and or given, if it happened to be different?
I pondered this for a while, and people always ask. And right now, the joke is sell what you got.
Okay.
So, in meaning that people always go, if I only had this, right? If I only had 2 T-shirts, I would do better. If I only had whatever it is, it's the excuse. But get rid of that excuse and go, I have this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to sell this. And that's your mission, not giving yourself an excuse of why you're not succeeding. So sell what you got. And that came from a guy who's doing $1 billion in business. And you know, things happen, like, well, we can't do this, but we're going to sell what we got. And that stuck to me.
Okay.
So and to me, it was more of you don't have an excuse why you're not succeeding. It's take what you have at the time and try and succeed with that. You don't allow yourself an excuse to go, if I only had. Well, then you're never going to make it.
Right.
Because that excuse will always be, first thing to come out of your mouth when things don't go right.
Right, that's great advice. I really like that. It makes a lot of sense. We're always looking for something else to make that thing happen for us, yet we've got all these other products.
It's a safety
or services.
mechanism.
Yeah, exactly.
It allows you not to look in the mirror and go, why is this not succeeding?
Okay.
Which is hard.
Next up is Nick Panwar, CEO of Team Knit. Nick is also a serial entrepreneur that I think you'll have some great advice for you as well.
What is the best business advice you ever received from somebody?
Never give up. Yeah. If you believe in yourself, never give up. Because this is one of the biggest problems of the people is that, my question is always, if you don't believe in yourself, how can you expect other people to believe in yourself? So the first thing is, you never give up. And if you never give up, it means you believe in yourself that one way or another way, I get what I want. So that's the best advice that I always give it.
If you're a car enthusiast, hopefully you've listened to my show with Brian Thompson. Brian Thompson Designs. He is a car designer, has worked with a wide variety of car designs, but also a man who started his own business not that long ago. So he had some great advice on how for people like himself that are starting businesses can help keep going during good and bad times.
What is the best business advice you've ever given and or received?
Oh, geez. Allow yourself to cheat and make mistakes. What I mean by that is that, like, and the word cheat to me is like, the solution that you're supposed to deliver is not always the right solution. Sometimes you have to kind of go around the obstacle, in a way that is just outside the norm, and make mistakes, because when you're doing that, you're going to make a bunch of mistakes. And just rely on your talent. That like I was saying earlier, that if you keep your mind open and flexible and try new rules, try something that's different than the rules say it's supposed to be, the talent will see you through, even when it's scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next is Matt Everett, CEO of World of Dance, and that's been one of my great shows. I love that. Seemed a little out of place for me. They're talking about dancing, but it's a great business lesson that doesn't apply to just necessarily technology or anything else. So Matt had some great advice on how they've grown World of Dance, really from a contest to the television show that you see.
What is the best business advice you've ever received and or given if it's different?
Well, I know that I was taught actually in my first agency job, the power of systems thinking, and that to me really it resonated with me because I took one of my majors in college was entrepreneurship, and I was a pretty good student in college, but I didn't really understand how to connect the dots until I took was in this entrepreneurship program, and they made you write a business plan. And when you're thinking about a business from all disciplines and how they all work together as a system, to me, like that was, if you're within a company and you're an entrepreneur, as I like to say, or you're outside as an entrepreneur trying to figure out how to build a business, learning to see the big picture and how things are all connected to me is really the key to being successful in either of those.
If you own business, you're always thinking about how can I sell it? Well, Kerry Potter, my guest from Deal Valuations, had some great business advice that he's been given and also that he gives to a lot of his clients. So hopefully you'll enjoy.
What is the best business advice you've ever received? And if it's the same that you give, or if it's different, what's the best business advice that you give?
As I get older, one of the things that Jack Welch said has resonated with me. Do things quicker, hire quicker, fire quicker, churn quicker. I really, I'm a driver at heart, and I emulate that in my driving. If I go up to a street and I know I need to turn right or left, I just go and make a right or make a left, whatever is more convenient. I don't know if I'm going to go the right direction, but usually really quickly I either figure I'm going the right direction or I figure I'm going the wrong direction. If you have a 50-50 shot, make the move. Not to make a move is to really not go anywhere. And and he really talked a lot about that in his books. I think that's one of the best pieces of advice I've read. To the extent that given, I really like talking about the valuation story. If you don't know your valuation story, then it's really hard to talk about your business to the two people that are most important, your customers and a potential buyer. And that to me is kind of a high level, more touchy-feely type, advice.
My next guest, Jenny Dinnan, president of McKinsey Corporation, a market research company, near and dear to my heart, because if you know me, you know that my background is also in market research. So it's great conversation, but also great advice that she's been given and the way she has also given as well. So hopefully you'll enjoy that.
Best business advice you've ever received and or given if it's different.
Okay. I was thinking, the best, so I worked in before the family business. So the rule in our family business also is that we had to work somewhere else before we could work in the family business, which I think is brilliant. So I worked at HSBC Auto Finance. So I was in the subprime, non-prime auto space, and then at Home Depot, HB Supply on the B2B side. And the best advice that I got from the very beginning was remember who your customers are. So as a girl in San Diego, starting out working my cubicle down there, and I started on the creative side of marketing before I got into this side, was as we were putting out these creative marketing campaigns, my boss at the time, Deb, and then Cherish, my second one, always honed on of who are we talking to? Remember who we're talking to, right? As I'm putting out 4-page flyers about ice melt to send to janitors and maintenance guys out in the Midwest, or a hurricane flyer preparedness. I had no idea, literally, from being born and raised here in Orange County, what ice melt was, what it meant to be in a hurricane, who these guys were. So remembering who our customers were and what really mattered to them, right? As I'm putting together my marketing campaign, I can't figure out what made sense to me and what attracted to me. It was who was my customer. So we were out at the NADA show talking to the guys. We were out at the auto dealerships with the F&I guys, talking to them about what challenges they were facing, what was going on in their world. We actually, I always had like a teenage girl crush or whatnot, but I had a picture of a maintenance guy up in my cubicle.
Okay, we won't.
So I know, which sounds silly, but up in my wall there to remember who the customer was and what I was creating this for. So I think that a lot of times that we forget. So my best advice that I received was always remember who the customer was and remember who we're actually talking to. It wasn't just sitting in the office coming up with ideas.
Talking to ourselves, really, and I actually talk a lot about that when I talk to customers. Is the question is, well, do we know who your customers? And like, we know their job titles. Well, that's not knowing your customer.
Yeah.
What's their journey? How do they like information? Who makes the buying decision? Are they making the evaluation decisions and the buying decisions, or is there somebody else?
Right.
And so I am firmly believing in what you're saying, that a business has to understand and really dig in to know that customer.
I'll speak for you, and you can agree or disagree. It's about that motivation. It is about that drive, because no one pushes us. There's no boss, in the ivory tower coming down and telling us what to do. So that really drives us. Adam Miller's CEO of Vibrant Software and also CEO of Nomad is up next. Again, some great advice that he's been given over the years, and also shares with people, his employees and people that he works with. I know you'll enjoy this show as well.
What is the best business advice you've ever received and or given if it's different?
So Kevin Welch is listening to this. Kevin, wherever you are, you need to listen to this, because he doesn't probably even remember he gave me this piece of advice. And this was nearly 25 years ago. It was right around the very beginning of my consultancy work. And I was working in an office, and I was trying to solve a problem, and I could not get it figured out. And it was getting to become late at night. I was getting frustrated, and the owner of the company was still sitting there, and he was very patient, and he called me into his office, and he said, Adam, he said, let me give you a piece of advice. If it seems too hard, you're probably doing it wrong. It was kind of a silly thing. I thought, well, I know I'm doing it wrong. Duh, that's why I'm still here. And I paused, and he just kind of looked at me like, you better just stop and think about this for a second. And I did, and I thought, and I realized, oh, what he's telling me is I need to change my approach, change my assumptions, change something else, because the direction that I'm going right now, that's fundamentally what's wrong. Something else other than the problem is the problem. It's me. I was looking at it the wrong way. And still to this day, every one of my employees, when I sense that something is not right, when I sense that something is not going the right direction, or they're having too much trouble for something, break out that little saying. They sure get tired of hearing it. But what it does is it forces you to think of things in a different perspective, think of them in a different light. And as soon as you do, suddenly things make a whole lot more sense, and those problems become much more achievable.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. That's great advice. A few years back, I was talking to somebody, and we kind of walked away with it, that think outside the box. We said, don't think outside of it, actually get out of it, walk around it a few times, and really look at the box from the outside looking in. So
Right.
I appreciate that advice, because we get into this kind of rhythm, and maybe a way we had done things in the past and assumed that's going to be the right way to do it again. And you have to step back. Life changes, technology changes. The reason we're having this conversation today, and you always have to be prepared to look at it in a different perspective.
Absolutely.
HR has always been a hot topic for me, and Leilani Coire, CEO of Be the Change HR, again, some great advice that she's been given and also gives to the people that she works with.
Business advice would you give them? What have you learned along the road that you want to impart to our listeners, that things that they should consider when really getting their new business going? And then actually, let's talk about add in the HR pitfalls and what can they do to mitigate those?
It's so funny you asked this question because I just wrote about it. It's difficult starting a business. There's the idea that you have to get business, you have to make money. There's all these things you have to put together. For me personally, I started a business and didn't realize, oh my gosh, I have to run a business. Like, it's not just human resources I'm doing, from all the accounting that has to be done and the marketing and all of that. And that was kind of a shock to me. So I would definitely recommend the book E-Myth. Super simple read, but it gives it to someone kind of clearly, when you start a business, like, how do you handle that?
Lauren Fear, CEO of Loyalty Craft. Again, customer centricity. One of those shows you really need to listen to, and Lauren's got some great advice that has been given to her and that she also imparts to people as well.
What is the best piece of business advice you've ever received? And if it's different than what you give, then tell me what you give.
Yeah, and I'm glad I had a little time to think about this. So thanks for sharing those questions in advance. I would say that the best advice actually comes from Steve Jobs, and it was to start with the customer and work backwards rather than letting technology be the starting point. And coming from a technologist and a personal hero of mine, those words really meant a lot in terms of how I thought about it. And I spent 20 years in technology as well. So starting from when I was, ironically, when I was young, I used to go with my father, and he sold personal computers at a brick and mortar store, and I would join him and sell with him. And so I was this 12-year-old selling the IBM PS2 to families who would come in, and recognizing that the family didn't want to be sold on how to use DOS prompts and Lotus and WordPerfect, but that they needed to see that there was this connection between my father and I, and that even a 12-year-old girl can use this thing, so why can't we too? And so the stories that came out of that and the connection, it definitely permeated through the work that I've continued to do in terms of making sure that it's not the technology first, it's the customer.
Sure.
It's different from the advice that I give, which actually has to do with my own personal journey into entrepreneurship. I'd always worked for larger companies, and so when I decided 4 years ago to go off on my own and create this new path for myself, a lot of things held me back, and I had all these reasons. And unfortunately, I think a lot of women do this, where we say, oh, well, I need this certification, and I need this background, and I need to have all these things. And we let that hold us back in terms of our own value of our work. And so the first thing I say is, hey, write all those things down, use some sticky notes, and write down every single thing that's you're afraid of or that might be holding you back, and then put it into basically 2 columns. One is complete BS. This is something that's holding us back, but it shouldn't be. But it's not, it's what's in our head, but it's not the reality. And then there might be some things we actually do need to work on. And so create a plan for how am I going to do that? What's my timeline? And then let's go out and just go for it. So being able to just go for it and focus on achieving those dreams that we have is so important to me, and the advice I like to share.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I'm sure that's great advice for the listeners.
And Ken LaCroix, CEO of Insightful Partners, some great insights, some great advice that he gives and has been given and wants to share with you. It's a great time to tune into Ken and Ken's show, which happened not too long ago.
What is the best business advice you've ever received and or given if it's different?
Sure. Well, they are different. So the best business advice I received, I was fortunate at a young age in college to be able to meet the chairman of ARCO, Atlantic Richfield, the gas company, the fuel company. And, sitting at the top of this ARCO tower in downtown LA was a little intimidating, but a very nice conversation. But the key takeaway for me was he said to me, do what you enjoy. Do what you really enjoy, because you're going to spend your whole life doing it. And there's been times in my career where I've enjoyed things, and there's been times in my career where I haven't. And I look back upon my whole pathway and the times that I was doing things I enjoyed, I seemed to excel at, and my whole life was good. And those times where I wasn't in those situations, it wasn't as good. The advice I give to my clients on a regular basis, and my clients are entrepreneurs with sales of $1 million to $50 million in sales, all that. I say concentrate on 2 or 3 things that you're going to accomplish in the upcoming month or 3 months. There's so many things entrepreneurs can focus on. The advantage of entrepreneurs is that they're flexible, that they can move on a dime, that they're very agile. The downside is that they can end up concentrating on a lot of things that don't end up in completion. So we talk about basically get 1, 2, or 3 things done in a 30, 60, 90-day period, and then go off and do all those other things.
Okay. All right. So really setting objectives that can be accomplished within that particular. So they feel like they're moving forward, right? They're gaining and they're doing.
And
something.
staying focused on it, right? Because it's it's that last mile that's the hardest. We can talk about a new objective, a new plan, but seeing it to fruition, seeing it all the way through, seeing it to completion is, I think, one of the biggest challenges in entrepreneurs today.
Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this compilation of advice from my guest over the past several months. Hopefully you'll subscribe to the show if you're not already a subscriber, and I look forward to seeing you next week for lunch at the Business Growth Cafe.
Thanks for joining us at the Business Growth Cafe, where each week we select from a menu of topics for a focused discussion with an industry expert to provide insights that can impact your business's growth. With your host, Angelo Ponzi.
Welcome into another episode of the Esports Minute presented by Esports Network. I'm Mitch Reams. Today we are offering a preview of the Fortnite World Cup. One of the largest esports tournaments of all time kicks off in New York City this weekend, July 26th through the 28th. 4 events will be held at Arthur Ashe Stadium, the home of tennis's US Open. Friday will feature the Creative World Cup at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, where qualifiers will compete in a variety of user-created minigames. Next up is the Fortnite Pro-Am, where celebrities will compete alongside top Fortnite players at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. But on Saturday, the real competitions begin. The Duos Final is slated for 1 p.m. Eastern Time, and the 50 duos from around the world who qualified will take the stage and immediately earn $50,000. The first place prize, $3 million split between the 2 players. Then on Sunday, the solos competition takes place with the same prize pool structure. In all, $30 million will be awarded over the course of the event. If you want a more in-depth look at the Fortnite World Cup and Fortnite esports in general, check out the Esports Network podcast feed. I brought on my friend and renowned Fortnite writer Amanda Zalauskis. For Fortnite Intel, she has produced well over 300 articles about the game, and we talked for over an hour about the wild last year of Fortnite esports, some of the inherent issues with Battle Royale esports in general, and who to watch out for at the Fortnite World Cup. Again, you can find that podcast on the Esports Network podcast feed, and the Esports Minute will be back on Friday with another daily dose of esports news.
It's time for the Talent Talk Radio Show, brought to you by People G2, a nationwide leader in background checks and employment screening solutions. People G2 gives their clients access to the best human capital management and due diligence tools available. They are dedicated to helping their clients with all of their people-related decisions. To learn more, go to www.peopleg2.com. Talent Talk centers on the topics of talent recruitment and management, leadership development, company culture, and employee engagement. These are all timely topics for CEOs, entrepreneurs, HR professionals, and business leaders. We hope that as you tune in to listen each week, whether to the live broadcast or to the podcast on iTunes or iHeartRadio, that you hear something you can take away that will help you grow and impact your career in a positive way. And now, here's the host of the Talent Talk Radio Show, the founder and CEO of People G2, Chris Dyer.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining me here on Talent Talk. I have a very special show for you, all of our listeners here today. We're excited about. We've got one guest who will announce here in just a moment. And, you know, kind of the way the show works is I have the privilege of meeting a lot of these inspiring leaders all the time.